Really Big Show with Czek and Iain Burns.
I'm Czek. With me, Iain Burns. We had a little mess up there. I guess we had 2 YouTube lives going at the same time. The show is so good, we double it up. I don't know. We killed the other live, though. Hopefully the people that were waiting in that room figure it out. Come for the technical difficulties. Stick around for the news. We promise to bring you the truth. And this show, the theme today, are Canadians suffering from mass delusion? Are we living in the Matrix? Is this concocted by the ruling, governing powers, the elitists, and supported by the servile media? Is that where we're at? And here's us, 2 guys banging on the door, trying to bring you truth. 2 guys scratching the door, and then, of course, the machine fights against us. We fight the machine. It's weird. It's actually weird and dystopian. We built up an audience of a couple 100,000 on our Meta platforms. And then the government decided, nah, you can't have that. You can't put information out on that. And then we bust our tail here on YouTube. And we bang on the door of 3 million views a month. And then they're just like, turn the screws on that as well. And then people saying they're not getting notifications and that. It's just like, we fight the machine. So you can help. Spread this far and wide. Spread the truth. Wise person once said, the truth shall set us free. So spread the truth. Spread the truth. That's all we have. We got lots of truth bombs today, lots of truth bombs and lots of delusion. And even one MP saying they're not responsible for telling you lies. You're responsible for figuring it out. Imagine that. Imagine that. Okay? Can you imagine that, saying that? But we start off with an expert, a leading expert, an academic there. Carney's Davos speech was a delusion, and Canada must choose between the U.S. and China. And that's from this expert academic. He's writing in the world's best-known foreign policy magazine and strongly criticized Mark Carney's Davos speech. Must be a fan of the show. Claiming that it was a delusion to think so-called middle powers can band together to resist control of the U.S. or China. In his Foreign Affairs article, Michael Beckley writes, middle powers cannot choose whether or not to live in a hierarchical world. They must choose between which hierarchy gives them the most room to maneuver. The danger is mistaking the performance of autonomy for the substance of power, celebrating summits, forums, and rousing speeches, while the real levers of money, technology, and energy and force accumulate in stronger hands. Middle powers are not free agents in a flat world, but they can still prosper by partnering with a great power in an increasingly unequal one. I mean, Canada's not even a middle power. We've said that a million times on the show. You need to have some type of military might. We're going to show you some receipts on that again today, that Canada, not even a middle power. If you want to rank powers, where does Canada fit in power in the world powers? Maybe ahead of Luxembourg. I don't know.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Everybody on this planet, everybody's favorite country of Israel, which is a tiny country geographically and in terms of population. Israel is maybe between 5 and 10 times more powerful than Canada, I would say, like rough estimate. So
I think you're being generous.
I think I am probably being a bit generous, but I'm not kidding. Israel could conquer Canada. If they wanted to do that, and if America let them, they could conquer this country. Israel. Look at Israel on a map. I've got a map here. I can't even see Israel. It's so tiny. I literally can't even see it. But it would slap Canada because Canada has no military. Israel has a military. It has an extremely powerful espionage service. It has nuclear weapons. It has planes, fighter jets with bombs attached. You know, it has things that Canada can only dream of. And if you read this article, and you've got to read this article, by the way, I implore you to read this article.
Do you want to stick a link in there, Iain, when you get a chance? Just stick a link in there for people.
Yeah. Well, if you just go to Foreign Affairs, it's on the front page. Apparently, I've learned that we're not supposed to send links because YouTube punishes us for that. But if you just go to Foreign Affairs, it's right there. It's like on their front page today. And if you're wondering, like, they let you read an article for free, I think, so you should be able to read it. But it's also, if you go to your library, most libraries in Canada, I think, get this too. You can get it digitally through that press reader thing. That's where I get it. So, and The Economist is on there as well. But anyway, yeah, this article lists middle powers. It actually talks about some middle powers. It doesn't mention Canada. It doesn't talk about Canada as a middle power. It talks about countries like India, population 1.5 billion or whatever, largest country in the world, nuclear weapons, an enormous military, a massive industrial base, etc., etc., etc. India, that's a middle power. Russia,
middle power,
is a middle power. So you see what I mean?
France,
I mean, maybe
middle
Israel.
Power,
We mentioned
UK,
Israel.
middle power. Canada, not so much.
Japan, maybe. I think Japan is blossoming into a middle power as it starts to drop its restrictions on its military. It already has quite an impressive and large navy. So Japan, maybe. Britain, France, yeah. Or the EU as a whole, maybe you could say that's like a middle power. Right. Maybe Turkey, if you wanted to have an argument, we might be able to argue about Turkey, possibly. I don't know. Maybe. Canada, however, no. Canada's not a middle power. There's one superpower on the planet, that's the United States, I would argue. There's one great power in the world, that's China. The rest of us are middle powers and non-entities. Canada's in the non-entity category, I'm sorry to say, because it doesn't have a military. It doesn't have TSMC, you know, it doesn't have TSCM, or whatever that company's called, the Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturer.
Semiconductors, TSMC.
Yeah, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the Dutch laser manufacturing or whatever it is that they do. It doesn't have nuclear weapons. It doesn't have any of these things. It's got oil, which it gives to the United States. I mean, that's quite valuable. But anyway, before I get lost, I would just like to say, read this article. It's an articulate recapitulation of what we've been saying for the last, how long? Year? 6 months? Something like that? I mean, it's about a year, isn't it? That we've
Come
been
here for the
saying
future.
this.
We'll tell you what they're going to say in the future. Because the Davos speech...
The bottom line, I would just say the bottom line, though, is you can't play around. It even addresses his term variable geometry, which is just another bollocks term that he invented to try and sound smart. It's a fabrication. It's nonsense. There's no such thing as variable geometry in the geopolitical world right now. And it exposes. It's like an autopsy. It's like a dissection of Mark Carney's stupid speech, and I can't recommend it highly enough.
I'm sure it's front page of CBC. No. That speech that the CBC and the other servile media applaud and still applaud to this day, and you know, like Diana Fox Carney going around that she gets stopped in the streets and how great that speech was. The speech was, as Ian would say, I'm going to use a technical English term, bollocks. It was just full of well, I mean, you say it best, but it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's a globalist speech that is nonsense, that is spoken to the other globalists in the room. And most people cannot even understand what's said, because if you truly understood what was said, it's a speech full of contradictions as well, and misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies.
I mean, the only chance that you're going to hear, the only discussion you're going to hear of the speech on CBC or the mainstream media is how great it was, and how everybody thinks it was great. But like I said it literally, basically live. I said, like after it had just gone, nobody serious will be impressed by this speech. Sure enough, nobody serious has been impressed by this speech. You know, Anita Anand's impressed by it. You know, make your own conclusions there. But nobody serious is impressed by this because it's fanciful. His whole worldview is completely fanciful. And as it says in this article, the whole middle power thing, the whole concept of the middle power is merely a consequence of American hegemony after the Second World War. Because the Second World War destroyed the old colonial empires, and it created a new geopolitical reality in which you could be a kind of associate of a superpower. I mean, I would say more like a vassal, or you could associate with a suzerain who would decide your foreign policy and other things, but you would get to remain an independent country in theory. That's the world that Canada's benefited from since 1945, and this is all explained in here. That globalization, American military, the security umbrella. People like fish in water. People have come to think that this is just part of the atmosphere or something. They've come to think it's just, oh yeah, of course I can, like we've said many times, of course I can trade with Vietnam if I'm Canada. Of course I can. All I need to do is have a port, a ship, put some goods in that ship and sail it to Vietnam. And there you go, I'm trading with Vietnam. They forget that it's the United States, and specifically the United States Navy, that makes that possible. But also, of course, the dollar system and all of the financial infrastructure that the Americans took from the British and then added to and created their own version of. We are fish swimming in an American sea, but we don't seem to understand it. Or at least, I mean, I say we, at least our leaders don't seem to understand it. The people who we expect to be the most intelligent and wise and competent people in our society. Apparently, they don't understand this.
And also the millions of Canadians that have been tricked in this mass delusion. We have a lot of receipts today on this mass delusion. So you need to help people wake up from this mass delusion. And it is actually hurting many, many people financially. And as they tell you how great it is, we show you the receipts on the other side of that. We need to wake up, because that's the only way we can fix it, is if we understand it. And the first thing to fixing a problem is recognizing we have a problem.
But also, don't misinterpret what I'm saying, and I think I'm safe here speaking for Jim. When I say this, I don't relish this. I'm not happy about this situation. I'm not happy to be able to say that Israel is more powerful than Canada, because Canada is has neglected its military to such an extent, and neglected geopolitics to such an extent that it's just feeble. That doesn't please me. I'm not happy about that. But it's kind of like in sports. And I'm sure Jim can comment here. But in sports, if you want to get good at a sport, like really good, you have to be honest with yourself about how good you are right now. You can't just pretend that you're like really good at lacrosse or whatever like that. You actually have to have a realistic conception of how good you are.
Here's the simple truth on that.
Then you can adjust and get better.
And when I coached for about 11 years for kids, we won a lot of championships. There's a price to be paid to become a champion. And it's a price most people are unwilling to pay. And it's a price Canada is unwilling to pay. Chrystia Freeland said it best. The Liberal government for the last 11 years has wasted that time on virtue signaling and identity politics. Wasted, squandered. We had Melissa Landsman on last week. Squandered our opportunities, and we continue to squander our opportunities. We could be one of the most rich nations in the world and become like the best friend in the United States. We've squandered a whole bunch of things for arrogance, and again, the benefit of the few. And we can see that the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. Most people not willing to pay the price to become a champion. And it is a hefty price to pay. And I say every day is game day. Like if you were given the opportunity tomorrow to walk onto the field, let's just use the Super Bowl, for example, and said, you can be the quarterback and you can you can play in the Super Bowl. Are you ready to play in the Super Bowl? Are you ready? Can you throw the ball? Or are you just going to pee your pants when they start coming at you? You have to be ready. You have to pay the price. You have to pay the price through the ranks. Canada has not paid the price, and it continues to shirk its responsibility. We had Heather Exner-Perot on. Canada has actually shirked its responsibility to provide energy to the rest of the world because we're following an ideology that forces people into famine and starvation. No matter how much Adrian Dix and David Eby stand up there and pontificate on their virtue signaling and their nonsense, they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. The world screams for energy, and they block it. And they block it from why is the question. Why?
Well, read just on what you just said there about the Super Bowl and everything. This sentence near the end of that article that we're talking about, the Foreign Affairs article, he writes, the danger is mistaking the performance of autonomy for the substance of power, celebrating summits, forums, and rousing speeches, while the real levers of money, technology, energy, and force accumulate in stronger hands.
Wow. There you go. That's it right there in a nutshell. In a nutshell.
This article is the first line is about Mark Carney, so it's kind of, that's the premise. It jumps from the Davos speech to this. But I mean, that's not specifically about Canada, that line, but I mean, bloody hell, does that not describe the political situation in Canada right now?
And Linda's right. Once you open your eyes and you see it, you cannot unsee it. And that's again, Ian and I don't relish in this. We're hoping to change this because this is a path. This is not a good path. And I think it was the PMO's office that wrote this, is that, at some point here, the ones with means will leave. You gotta remember, our Prime Minister has 3 passports. And the ones left behind will kill all the wildlife because it'll become so bad. And we're going to show you the receipts for that. We're going to show you the receipts for that. We're going to show you the receipts for how bad our military is. And we've had so many people. Yesterday was a key interview we did with Catherine Swift again. And she said, this is intentional. This lack of a trade deal is intentional. This rallies power behind the Liberals, a crisis to give more power to the governing party. It's a created crisis. Instead of trying to solve the problem, they continue to make it worse because it creates a crisis, and then they can rally the people, and they'll almost put up with anything. They'll almost put up with anything. The lies, the misinformation, the disinformation, because they have a common enemy. Nothing unites like a common enemy. And that's so true. And here's Pete Hoekstra here on the free trade deal with America. Or trade deal, not free. The link right here, this one. Like I said, come for the tech difficulties, stay for the news. He was distracted, he said. So chasing a rat around or something. Anyway, let's go.
Come for the technical difficulties.
Here,
the mispronunciation.
You've got folks who are doing everything they can to get the Canadian public to rally against America. Just doesn't make any sense.
But do you understand where that frustration is coming
Absolutely
from?
No.
In Canada, because
No.
A lot of Canadians are saying, well, we didn't do anything wrong, and suddenly Donald Trump, put tariffs on us.
We put tariffs on everybody in the world. There are 2 countries that have retaliated against America. Okay?
China and Canada.
You said it, I didn't.
How many people are sitting at home on unemployment, worried about their job, worried about feeding their family, as they continue to virtue signal and do things? I mean, just as we get close, supposedly we were close a few times. Just as we get close, we seem to throw another hurdle up. Like the other day, that this 15% CRTC tax, like on the big tech companies, that's got to be intentional. Like, what's the purpose of that? If nothing else, they already backed off the digital services tax, and all of a sudden they throw this one up there. It's like they need this crisis to continue.
But we know as well, you're talking about the CRTC thing. We already know that that's something that the Americans are the 2 things the Americans are most sensitive about, like in my estimation. One would be China, getting into bed with China. All right, we did that already. Then the other one would be digital services taxes and trying to regulate the Mag 7. There's great tech companies which drive the stock market, which drive the American economy right now. Those are the things that they're probably, I would say, the most sensitive about. And we've got them on both of those things. I mean, to look back, to reference Catherine Swift yesterday, that's got to be intentional, hasn't it? They could be ignorant and stupid enough in the Prime Minister's office and foreign affairs and all the rest of it to not understand geopolitics. I've sort of come to terms with that. I don't think they understand geopolitics, and we just discussed that in the previous section. If you want to rewind, but things like that, like understanding what the Americans are most nervous about, what they're sort of what will trigger them. I fully expected them to know that and to understand that. And if that's true, if it is indeed the case that they know this, then they're doing it on purpose. It's intentional. As old Swifty said, it's intentional. They're trying to piss them off.
It's a
Now we
manufactured
just have to
crisis.
ask why.
Manufactured crisis to gain more power, and again at the expense of the Canadian population. And this is here from Holly Donald Blacklock's Canadians expecting failure on tariffs. Canadians resigned to failure in eliminating U.S. tariffs, and that's from the in-house Privy Council research. Federal focus groups unable to reach any consensus on whether Carney was on the right track after promising to negotiate a win for Canada. I mean, listen to his speeches. How many times does he stand up there just as we get close on something when there seems to be, like, Jameson Greer says something, we're close, and then Carney gets up there and says, like, we will not send them money, we will not do this, we will not do that, we'll stick a stick in their eye. It is everything they can do to push to make it a failure. Mexico, we're going to show you later, looks like they're getting really close. Canada looks like it's going to get frozen out. I don't understand why. How many people need to pay the sacrifice so that the few, the elitists, can benefit while the many pay the price?
But it's like we said, again, like, as you said, you want to know the future. Watch these mispronunciations and technical difficulties. Inside of that, there's some gems. Inside of all that mud, there are gems here. Because, as we said ages ago, it's not in the interests of Mark Carney and the Liberal Party to bring about amity with the United States. That is not in their interests. And if it's a question of country or party, we already know who they pick because they've done it again and again and again and again and again. They pick party. Party's what matters to the Liberal top dogs. It's just it's perfectly rational. This is not obscure sort of weird psychotic thinking or whatever. This is totally rational. If your priority is your party and your position in Canadian society, you're going to want this animosity to continue with the United States. You don't want friendliness. You don't want this to go away.
Another really good point that was brought up in the interview yesterday with Catherine Swift, I recommend you go watch it, is the bureaucracy that Mark Carney seems to be building, like a bigger and bigger bureaucracy that feeds off the Canadian taxpayer, that continues to feed off the Canadian taxpayer. And here's another receipt. The Privy Council commissioned these focus groups under a $1.6 million contract with Strategic Counsel, a Toronto pollster. These pollsters are just raking the money. And a lot of these polls seem to favor the Liberal government. I mean, whether or not that's true or not, but there's a lot of money being spent on polls. Like big contracts, $250,000 for a poll for 2,500 people. This is a $1.6 million contract for these pollsters. And then you get polls that come out that favor, it's like a mass delusion. You're just like, how can this be? How does this make sense? And then some people just, there was that experiment they did where, like they kept saying math wrong. And then finally the people just give in and say, yeah, 2 + 2 is 9. Yeah, that must be true.
This is remarkable. I didn't even see that part. $1.6 million contract for focus groups. I don't know if people know what a focus group is, but usually a focus group is you just get a few people together who represent
bunch of fools in a room.
Sections of society. Yeah, like similar to a poll. People that are supposed to represent different sections of society, and you just put them in like a bland sort of office room thing, like just some sort of bureaucratic facility, and you sit around a table and you just ask them things about, like, so what do you think of Trump or whatever. Like that's all you do, mate. That's a focus group. How the hell could that cost $1.6 million? Again, I just have no idea. I have no idea how they waste this money.
Here's Kate Harrison here on CBC talking about the deal, the non-deal.
What do you make of what we heard just there from the ambassador?
Yeah, we talk a lot about the unpredictability of the United States, and I think that conversation with the ambassador makes it pretty clear what we are dealing with. I took note of the fact that tariffs have been applied across the board. No one is getting special treatment, and Canadians should not necessarily expect the same, even though, we have a deal that has been working well for both sides of that deal. I was more interested in the comments that Hoekstra made relative to Mexico. Mexico begins their negotiation with the United States this week. and Canada is not at the table in the same way. So we may well be frustrated by the tone and the approach of the Americans, and in fairness to Canadians, it's the US that started this trade war. But it was the Prime Minister that said we have to deal with the world as it is. This is the world as it is. So what is Canada meaningfully doing to advance our interests in this time rather than griping from the sidelines?
The CBC is a main problem in Canada. Like, I mean, they're not doing their job. They take tax dollars. They take our money. They're not the voice of the people. Many millions of Canadians suffering. And they continue to not seek out truth. Who's paying the price is the question.
For all that, though, at least they get her on.
Yeah.
Because she's not like a straw man or a straw woman. Like, you might have suspected that they would get somebody a bit dim to come and represent,
Well, this is
the
their
rational side
little
of
bit of a
politics. She's
mirage,
actually very
their little show, right? Their little
Yeah,
token.
but
Scott Jennings,
they haven't
right?
done that. They haven't got like a mug in to make that side look bad. They've brought her in, and she is, every single time she appears on CBC, she's just instantaneously the smartest person. And every time she speaks, it's like common sense bombs going off. So I guess credit to them for that. I don't know who it was that fought to ensure that she was on there, but yeah. There you go. The point you made about Mexico, I would just add anyway, and we talked about this ages ago. This might become more apparent to more people as time passes, but the United States ranks Mexico higher in importance than Canada already. That's already.
Well, they're a bigger trading partner now too. They've taken over that spot. They've taken over that spot as the biggest trading partner.
It's deemed crucial, not just to American security, but also to the American economy. Like, they're very, they understand how important Mexico is in the United States, and they rank it above Canada, as I said. So,
and then some people,
we were already like behind in this race, and rather than like try and run faster somehow, we're just sitting down with our legs crossed, while the guy who's the favorite to win runs ahead. But another point she made about take the world as it is. Yeah, like, the Americans can be abrasive, like Donald Trump can be abrasive, Howard Lutnick can be abrasive, and so on. But they're much better, aren't they? And they're much nicer people. They're morally superior, I think, I submit, to the Chinese Communist Party, who enslave people and, like, destroy ethnic groups and flood parts of their empire, like Tibet, with a certain race of people so that they can dilute the race, dilute the sort of majority, the ethnic majority that exists in places like Tibet. So in other words, a form of ethnic cleansing. That's just a sprinkling of what the Chinese Communist Party does. And Carney went over there and kissed the feet of Xi Jinping. So if he can do that, I think he can go and kiss Howard Lutnick's behind, can't he? Like, if it's in the interests of Canada, just do it.
There is a reason that people want to get into the United States, why capital wants in the United States. It is the freest democracy in the world, and it is the best set up democracy in the world. I mean, there's a reason for all of that stuff. And they have lots of checks and balances we don't have. There's a lot of checks and balances right now that have been compromised here in Canada and continue to be compromised here in Canada, including the media. And there's a reason that, like I said, people in Canada are saying right now, oh, well, Trump said the 51st state and insulted Canada and all this stuff. He insulted Mexico too, called it a narco president, called it all kinds of names. She just took it and said, whatever, sure, whatever. Same with us. If we could get Mark Carney on here to do an interview with us, we don't care if he spends the first 10 minutes saying how much we suck. That's great. We suck. Now can we get to some of the questions that we'd like to answer? That's it. It doesn't matter, right?
But it's, as Lord Palmerston said, I'm sure Carney would respect him because he was British. But as old Palmy said, Britain has no permanent allies, only permanent interests, right? That can be considered true of all countries. What's our permanent interest in Canada? It happens to be making sure that the United States is our friend. That's our permanent interest. That's the number one priority of every single leader of this country. Anybody that loves this country, that's your number one priority. Make sure that things are going well with the United States. Everything is connected to the United States. So, yeah, maybe we need to smuggle that into Mark Carney and just say, yeah, this was a British prime minister that said this. Yeah.
Here's a reality check for
you-
Canadians and for what their perception is and what the reality is. And we try to bring this a lot of times. Because in Canada, they can say that Canada's in the right direction. 47% of Canadians think we're headed in the right direction. We showed you that poll recently, right? But they think the world's headed in the wrong direction, and they think the United States headed absolutely in the wrong direction. 80% think that the United States heading in the wrong direction. But then if you look at the reality of the situation, you look at Canada's GDP versus the United States GDP, then you ask yourself, where's Mark Carney got his money invested? Where's Brookfield headquartered? Where's Brookfield's building 8 nuclear reactors in the United States? Look to the actions. With Catherine Swift, look to the actions of the person. Look to the actions, as opposed to the rhetoric that's being spoken. We're going to show you a thing from Scott McKinnon here later. He said, well, MPs have a right to lie. What? Lie to you. That's their right to lie. And here's another one. Look at this. 2 polls, same day. Abacus, Carney is surging. Canadians feel Canada on the right track. And then the other one from Blacklock's an internal poll, Canada Democratic Institutions in free fall. We showed you those. I think we covered this a couple days ago. Yeah. Square those circles.
I mean, I can if you want me to, but I don't want to, and I don't think you want me to either, because it's too depressing, you know. So let's pretend that it's not possible to square that circle. Because, like I said, it's too demoralizing. That is too dark to even consider.
How's our stream? Are we jittery a bit, or is everything good? Everything working out, everybody? Just check let us know on the volume, and then I just thought I'd see the screen kind of shutter there. Mark Carney, though, sat down negotiating a free trade deal with India. He said it'll be a game changer for Canadian workers and business, unlocking a massive new market. I mean, I'm still leery on this deal. Here's Mark Carney sitting down with their minister, their trade minister, talking about a deal. And when they met there, no, don't flick too fast. And then, again, we're just talking about a deal. And I got some kind of jersey in the background there. I'm not sure what that's all about. But, and then when he met with one of the interview with an Indian ambassador on Canadian television, there said Canada should be ready to take another 40 million people from India. That's the trade they're offering us. And then Mark Carney was there. He said he was going to offer scholarships to Indian students. So what are we getting?
I'm pretty sure that shirt in the background is the Ottawa Charge, which is a women's hockey team. He cannot resist attaching himself to any sort of
sports stuff.
Sport event. Yeah, I mean, it's just I find it a little bit.
He wants to
cringe.
be at the Super Bowl, but he doesn't want to pay the price. How's that? He wants to be the Super Bowl guy, but doesn't want to pay the price.
He wants to be associated with it. Yeah, no matter what.
So
this India thing. I mean, again, in the context of what we were talking about, a foreign affairs article. These are 2 countries that, if they want to get ahead in the world that's coming, or even the world that exists now, they've got to attach themselves to either China or the United States, basically. So they're talking about this great trade deal. Ken, look at a map. I mean, what we're gonna go through the Suez Canal. We're gonna go, through Gibraltar, past Gibraltar, Suez Canal, the Red Sea. Heard about the Red Sea lately? Yeah, it could be a bit of a problem. Those darned Houthis. Anyway, Gulf of Aden, and then across the Arabian Sea, one of the sort of piracy capitals, past Somalia, and then we'll land in Mumbai, aka Bombay, and then we're friends. Oh, what's the alternative then? Oh, we go the Pacific route. Oh yeah, then we kind of have to go past China. We have to go East China Sea, South China Sea, Strait of Malacca, and then up to India. What kind of relationship can we realistically have with India, unless it's with the blessing of China and the United States? Any ideas?
Well, here's something. Again, sitting around in a room talking about possible deals, meetings to have meetings, and then again, here's America again. Marco Rubio Again, hold my beer. Listen to this.
In addition to being an important document and an important agreement, I think it brings a tangible example of the strategic partnership between the United States and India. Thank you.
May I now request both the leaders to please sign the document?
That's good. As they scratch the pen to paper. What's the
Good biceps.
what's the moniker there? Yeah, Rubio, get shit done. That's his thing. Like, we're talking about getting deals, like MOUs, and he talks about these 24 deals, which there's no deal because otherwise they'd be lauding it everywhere. Rubio, there's signs of deal. How many deals are being signed? Can you show us a deal? Like, they actually are signing a deal. And we're having meetings to have meetings.
I mean, there's photographs. They can show you photographs of handshakes and stuff. Was that good enough, sir?
But it's the delusion, right? It's the delusion about, I remember like some salespeople that we had way in the past, and just like, they're always talking about the deal they're going to do. I'm just at some point, it's like, you need to put some meat on the table. You need to put something down on the table, right? There's Rubio putting meat on the table. And there's Canada talking about, possibly. And then they're always giving, and we're always giving. If we have what the world wants, why are we always giving? Why are we always giving and not getting?
But it's also based on reality. Because what I just explained, the geography that I just explained, obviously the same thing applies to the United States. The difference, however, is that the United States has the United States Navy. So if it comes to it, if there's piracy off the coast of Somalia, if the Red Sea is besieged by the Houthis in Yemen or whatever, the Americans have a gigantic navy and they can go and slap people around. And then they can maintain trade with India. Because all trade ultimately, or the majority of physical trade, is done by sea. If in case that wasn't obvious. But the Americans can actually talk about this stuff, sign a deal, and it can manifest in reality. And they can make sure that they can trade with a country like India. They can make sure they can get those critical minerals. We, on the other hand, can't do that, and nor can the Indians. The Indians don't have serious power projection. They don't have a massive navy, really. So, they're in a different league, the Americans. To even compare is daft, isn't it? They're on a different planet.
Just for the stats fans out there, 71% of the Earth is ocean. So most of the travel.
And there's basically 2 or 3 navies on the planet worth the name. And the ones other than the US Navy are like, the British, the Japanese, some would say the Chinese, but they're not anywhere near. They're like, the Americans could send one carrier group and slap them all. It's not the same thing.
We had, just as a point of reference, we had Brian Isted. He's coming on again. I think we're trying to get him for Thursday, I believe. Brian Isted, former Canadian Armed Forces captain. Just for context, this one that shocked me. The New York Police Department, the NYPD is larger than the full complement of the Canadian Armed Forces. The NYPD. Those are facts. Those are just facts. Not enough pistols, not enough backpacks, not enough frag vests. One functioning submarine, we're going to show you that later. One functioning submarine bought in 1980 for I think the world's largest unprotected coastline. One functioning old antiquated submarine bought in a UK garage sale. And they stand up there and tell you all this nonsense, and you buy it. Get more people to watch this show, because the truth shall set us free. We shall demand more, demand better. And right now, what's the big media operation that's going on right now? The big media protection plan. That's what they call like witness protection plan. The media protection plan here They're going after Danielle Smith hard. They're going after Danielle Smith hard. She is the treasonous, the awful one, as they all attack her. David Eby, Adrian Dix, all of them coming out, going after Danielle Smith and trying to shame her into silence, right? Here's Michelle Rempel here. Listen to this.
But it's not just about energy security. It's not just about these bills, which they need to repeal. It's also about equity. I believe that a strong Canada is when we are united in equity. And the reality is it's not all okay right now. The federal Liberals have treated my province for a decade like an afterthought. I've had many, famous quotes about this in the House of Commons over the years, and I've wrote documents warning that this would happen if the Liberals didn't take action to show some hope for that equitable Canada. So what I'm calling on the Prime Minister to do is he has no right to wave his finger. There's one person who can unite the country right now, and one job it is, and it's Mark Carney's, but he can't just wag his finger. He has to project real action. Tell Albertans when a shovel is going to go in the ground for pipelines. To tell Albertans when he's going to repeal these bills that are preventing investment in upstream development for our resources sector. When is he going to repeal the gun grab that has irritated so many Albertans?
I mean, the list of grievances for Alberta are many, long, and storied. I mean, we could sit here for the next 3 hours and list some just out of the top of my head. Karina Gold, landlock their resources. like literally a Liberal MP. She was a cabinet minister, wasn't it, last time around? The cabinet minister says landlock their resources. That is a direct attack on them. And you brought up that point yesterday too. Adrian Dix talks about how we need to be a team Canada. You said in Williams Lake, he basically wants to crush Alberta. Like, I mean, it's on and on and on how Alberta has been treated like this beast of energy that has been locked in the back room and shackled and told to shut up. Mark Carney, in his book Values, which he says he's still that guy, 80% of that needs to stay in the ground. Like, I mean, these are the people. If you want to quell the separatist movement, unleash the beast for the prosperity of all of Canada and Alberta. It's absolutely simple. You won't do it. The question is why. But the media machine, hard at work right now. The media machine, hard at work in trying to go after Daniel. So they got Christy Clark out there doing her little spiel about how she's the worst. Danielle Smith's already been proven right several times over when they went after her in the past over, like trade deals and stuff like that, and she went and got deals done. She speaks truth. The rest is just mass delusion supported by the Office of Misinformation headquartered at none other than the CBC.
And it's not just energy, is it? I mean, I know we concentrate on that, and actually so do people in Alberta, which is understandable. That's the economic side of things and the standard of living side. But there's also like changes to the criminal code, like justice, messing about with the justice system. That is just like infuriated people in Alberta and obviously the rest of Canada. And then what Michelle Rempel Garner there said about guns. Well, I mean, they thought that was so smart, didn't they? They thought they were being so clever. They thought they would win Montreal, say, like they would, they get their precious jewel in Quebec by passing this stupid bill on guns in the aftermath of some utter psychopath who'd collected illegal guns that were already illegal and shot a lot of people in Nova Scotia. The Liberals thought, yeah, all right, we'll put this stupid law in place and we'll ban loads of guns and seize them basically by one means or another. We'll get them, and then that'll please Quebec and maybe even Toronto a bit as well. And Bob's your uncle. They didn't think it through. And Alberta and people in Alberta and people in like normal parts of Ontario as well and the rest of Canada, they weren't even in the room, were they? They weren't even consulted. They weren't even allowed to express an opinion. It was just this emotionalism. It was just Justin Trudeau talking about they don't belong on the streets of Canada. They belong on a battlefield and things like just like Democratic Party talking points from 20 years ago or more. And they just did it. And it's like all these things have a cost. When you prioritize the electorate in Montreal over the electorate in Alberta, there's a price to pay for that. It's not free. These things don't come free of charge. And they're learning, aren't they? I guess. I mean, if Steven Guilbeault does resign, that's another lesson for them, isn't it? You can't keep those two sides of the country satisfied, really, can you? It's not possible.
Thank you, Diana. And she's been a stalwart supporter of this free and independent media. She is one of the bigger supporters of this show. We appreciate that. We appreciate the support for independent media. Truth and share, support, whatever you can do to help get this word out. Because the more people that know, the more we can push back against dishonesty, misinformation, disinformation. Because it is the truth that we seek. We're only going to get better if we have truth, right? We're only going to get better if we have truth. People are only going to invest in a nation that's full of truth. What's that?
Bueno Kitty here as well as he or she, I assume is she, has got a 3-month membership, I think.
Well appreciated, well appreciated. You can join Thinking Canadians by hitting that join button there. You can be part of the Thinking Canadians. Of all places to support Alberta, it comes out of none other than Quebec. Listen to this.
Bit of difference between what's going on.
It is still up to them. It is still up to Albertans to decide, and definitely not to another government to decide on what if the question should have been asked in the first place. That's basically what you're telling me. The question shouldn't have been asked because it was not part of the promises the to-be government would have mentioned during a campaign. It is not up to me to decide that. I'm not Albertan. It will be up to the Albertans to decide. So as a member from Quebec, from a different province, and you can quote me on the fact that I use province in that case. Being from the nation of Quebec, I should have no say on how Albertans will decide. It's only up to them, the same way it will be up to Quebecers to decide on their future without any say from the federal, from Papa Ottawa telling Quebecers with a certain disdain, well, the question's not clear enough for you to understand. And that's basically what the Clarity Act is, and that's basically the door that the Prime Minister is opening. So in no way it is possible, in our view, that someone else, other than the Albertans, decide for them. The way it's going to be the same for, it's going to be only Quebecers who will be able to decide for them when the time comes.
Media looking for everybody to voice dissent on Alberta, and they didn't get what they were looking for from the Quebec MP.
Well, they're not gonna, are they? Because they want the same thing. Many such cases throughout history of this. This is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, isn't it? As the old saying goes. So it makes sense for them to be bedfellows, even though, ironically, that's kind of the center of the argument, is Alberta versus Quebec. But these factions within those provinces are so sick of the arrangement that they're not even angry at Alberta anymore or Quebec anymore. They just want to get out of the whole thing.
Sometimes I look at what Carney's doing. Is he trying to please everybody? Is he trying to please no one? But sometimes if you try to please everyone, you please no one. I'm not sure what he's trying to do. Sometimes I think, is he a conservative that has gotten inside the Liberal Party and is dismantling the Liberal Party from inside? You know what I mean? Like, it's confusing, I'm sure, even to the Liberals in there. And right now we have a rumor that Steven Guilbeault, one of the extremists in the Liberal Party, one of the extremists that drove a lot of this policy that has put Canada on its knees for the past 11 years, and one of the extremists that has actually put Canada on its knees. And that comes from wildfires, climate change ideology, and anti-energy policies, is rumored to be resigning from the Liberal Party. And he could be set to resign from the Liberal caucus this week, and that's from CTV News. He resigned earlier from cabinet when they cut the restrictions on oil and gas here. And CBC also saying they got that letter from 14 Liberal MPs and they're running cover for them as well. It's absolutely crazy. Like, I mean, that we said this. I think we said this 2 months ago when he Frankenstein this thing, when he cobbled it together that the real threat for Carney is likely from within, because he's got this Frankenstein of a party with a bunch of people that, I think you said it best, there's no like agenda in that party. It's just all about power. It's only about power, and you have too many differing opinions in there.
That's the sole unifying principle, is power. For its own sake, even as well. It's not like power to do anything.
Yeah.
It's power for its own sake, because you need to have principles. You need to have some kind of idea about what you want to do in the world to use power to some end. But that's not what this is about. It's just power for the sake of having power. And that's the Marilyn Gladu perspective, in my humble opinion. It's just power for the sake of power. Because what on earth could she possibly hope to achieve with that, with the power that she's a small part of now? Because she's jettisoned her entire philosophy, her entire worldview. So what are you going to do with it other than have it? You know, this is getting into some pretty deep Lord of the Rings metaphors there, like wanting the ring. But why? Just to have the ring, you know, just to have power. But old Guilbeault, I will just say about him, he's been a menace, hasn't he? We're talking about Alberta independence. I would say if you were going to establish a sort of hall of shame of the people that have made that happen, he would be maybe number 2 after Justin Trudeau, or maybe Justin and Justin the dad. Let's not forget him, and he would be right in among it. You know, he achieved nothing. His whole purpose was to oversee this very strict environmental so-called regulatory regime, like anti-industrial regulatory regime, with the intention of bringing down CO2 emissions by a certain amount. Failed, didn't achieve it. And even if he had, it would have had no effect on global CO2 emissions. The amount of CO2 in the world's atmosphere would have had no noticeable effect. The man is a failure. Everything he's done in government has disintegrated and failed. And even if he'd achieved it, it still would have been a failure based on his own ambitions, what he was actually aiming for. All he has achieved, I mean, he's got his name in the newspapers and on TV a lot, I guess, but all he has achieved is alienating millions and millions of people, and the entire provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan, at least.
I try to go back and watch our shows too, to learn a little bit, and you know, and I watched yesterday's a bit of yesterday's show, and there's some good points in there that you made about Brexit yesterday. The people that are the best proponents for Brexit were the ones that were pushing hard against Brexit. You know what I mean? Like the Adrian Dixes, the Steven Guilbeault, the David Eby's. Every time you push and label Albertans as treasonous and do these things, you push them further away. Instead of listening to the grievances of that great province, you push them further away with your virtue signaling. You need to stop. You need to absolutely just sit down. Look what you've done to your own province. You need to just sit down. You refuse interviews as well. You do not believe in a free and democratic society. Take a seat.
And another one, which is maybe a bit closer to home that people might be able to grasp more, because Brexit's like a mystery to most people. I would say another example is Donald Trump. A lot of people would say, oh yeah, Donald Trump won 2016 because he's Donald Trump. And he was like so hilarious or whatever, and he galvanized people. Yeah, definitely that's some of it. But can you possibly conceive of him winning the 2016 presidential election without Hillary Clinton, CNN, the entire American media, ABC, all the rest of them, the Colberts and all those blowhards? Can you imagine a Trump victory without those people? They marshaled the forces of Trump just through their insufferability, just because they patronized and attacked and insulted.
Well, his second victory,
half the American population.
2024, yeah. The mugshot, you know, that they wanted to shame him with. And then the black community rose up and said, he's one of us. He's one of us. Like with the absolute persecution they did. Absolute persecution, and none of it stuck. It's just absolutely, all you do is push people further, galvanize them. And that's what they're doing right now, because they could easily alleviate some of this movement here by just unleashing the beast. They refuse to do it.
But isn't it, Polyev made this point the other day, and it's a good point, but it'll be ignored because Polyev made it, unfortunately. But isn't it funny that the Liberal Party presents itself as literally calls itself the natural governing party of Canada, and it explains itself, it justifies itself by saying, look, Canada's a complicated kind of guy, and there's only one institution in this country that can hold it all together, and it's us, the Liberals. You know, we're the professionals. We're the only ones that can do it. But isn't it ironic, a little bit funny, that these separation crises, these independence referenda, only ever seem to happen when the Liberals are in power? You know, aren't they self-discrediting? Don't they discredit themselves? I mean, how can they still present themselves as like they're the ones with the key. They know how to manage Canada, you know? Like if Canada, like I was saying to Catherine Swift that time, they see Canada as like a really sort of unruly horse that only they know how to ride. I mean, the evidence suggests that that's not true, because things seem to fall apart when the Liberals are in power.
We had Joseph Barbuto on many times, and he said that out of this, like this, it's kind of like the crumbling. We talked about it earlier this week. Like democracy in Canada is like a decaying corpse of a dead fish, dead fish. Two similar words. Like this decaying fish, a corpse of democracy, like laying stench, like filling the room. And nobody seems to care. But out of that, he says, will rise a phoenix, maybe different parties, maybe different things. But out of that, as you suppress things, that's what born Donald Trump, too. That's what brought him to the forefront. So is there somebody here in Canada that can rival this delusion? Can we break through the delusion? Well, Ian and I are going to try. We're going to do our best, and you can help by pushing this far and wide. Put it on every social channel. You got to share it with everybody you can. Talk about it in your lunchrooms. Just share it wherever you can and say there is truth in Canada. And you can find it here on Now Media on The Really Big Show. You can find it here every weekday at 9 a.m. PST, and we do lots of clips. We're on X now. We finally got on X. We got a small team. We're on X. We're on TikTok, barely, and we're not doing it. We actually had a viewer reach out and said she's going to help us with our Instagram because we just don't have enough hands to do everything all at once. So that's great. And we're close to getting our store off and running. So we do have a website now, thereallybigshow.ca. You can come and support there. You can make donations. A couple people made some donations yesterday on thereallybigshow.ca. The members here, you can do lots. You can do lots to fight for truth, for sure, to really fight against this delusion that's out there. And then here these people are. These 5 people here in this link here, the MP floor crossers, have a lot to answer for too as well. We just put them up as a reminder as to what democracy could be in Canada. But here's the Bloc now talking to the Steven Guilbeaults and that are now upset with the Liberal MPs as he invites them to cross the floor. That's not democracy. I just don't understand it. When is now Canada is basically like sunk into this, like where we're going to offer trinkets as Pierre Poilievre start doing this now too? Like we're all just offering in the back room a bag of marbles to everybody? Magic beans? Let's play this clip.
When it comes to environmental betrayal, the Prime Minister has gone even further than Stephen Harper. And we're not actually the ones saying it. It's the Liberal MP for Laurier-Sainte-Marie, and he's not the only Liberal to think this way. 15 or so Liberals have written to the Prime Minister to express their unease about this oil-forward shift, and about 15 Liberals have reminded him that climate change remains the greatest threat of our time. Well, if it is the greatest threat of our time, what are they waiting for to stand up, speak up, and cross over the opposition?
They're literally standing up, taunting.
That's good. That's good.
That's very professional, isn't it? In the heart of our democracy. Ooh.
But I mean, is that what we're going to become? We're just next week, just like Liberals have a majority. No, Conservatives do. No. Okay. When does the voter matter? When does the voter matter? When? Where's the respect for the vote? Because that's all that makes a democracy is the vote.
Have they done anything lately to earn respect? Sorry, Canadian voter, but I mean, come on. Respect is earned. And the kind of decisions that have been made by the Canadian electorate in the last 11 years are just completely mind-blown, really, aren't they?
Here's David Eby finally conceding that the Pacific Coast belongs to Canada and not British Columbia. Can you play that clip there? I think Ian marked it there. The YouTube one, this one here. The link's not in there? No, Ian had it there. It's in the 5 things, actually. In the 5 things. Anyway, Eby has been complaining about both Mark Carney and Alberta. He bemoaned the reckless upcoming referendum in Alberta about whether to hold an independence referendum, and also reiterated that we're not going to have oil tankers in incredibly dangerous water off the pristine north coast of BC. He did, however, concede that the Pacific coastline belongs to Canada and not British Columbia. So, do we need to watch that, Ian, or does that basically cover it? I mean, that much.
I don't think we need
All
to.
right.
But
No, we won't play it. So
that's not the right thing anyway. But I would say, right, when he said that, we can't have tankers off our pristine west coast. I've got a link here, which is a ship radar website, marine traffic. Yeah, just have a look at that. See if Rommel can get that up. There we go. That's Prince Rupert there, where that cluster is. The red one, if you zoom in, the red ones, the red dots are tankers. Well, you have to zoom out a little bit more. Yeah. So the red dots are tankers. If you click on one of those red dots, you'll see we've got a liquefied petroleum gas tanker. You got that one, whatever that is. But you got a British one, Libra. So yeah, you got that Wolverine Spirit. I don't know where that's come from, but that's carrying the good stuff. Where did it come from? Let's see if we can find out. Well, anyway, I can't see it, but yeah, it's
we get
carrying
the
the
idea.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, I just find it so hilarious. It's like these websites are free, you know. You don't have to pay. You can just go and just look for the red dots, and you will see that tankers carrying energy of various kinds are indeed right there. They're milling about. And you've got one, I'm looking now, pretty large LNG tanker. So that's liquefied natural gas. I mean, liquefied petroleum gas is considered to be one of the more dangerous things if you have a spill, because it can if it sets on fire, it can cause enormous damage. And it can just burn forever, basically. It's awfully tedious. And it's also not a tanker ban per se. He's saying we've got to protect our pristine coast. That's not what the legislation says. It doesn't say thou shalt not sail oil tankers through the northern coast, off the northern coast. It says thou shalt not put them in port and fill them up in a port there. That's what the actual law says. So, and there's carve outs. There's like public interest carve out. There's military carve out. You know, they have these various exemptions where they can do it. So it's okay sometimes then. Is it okay or is it not okay? Like, what's the answer to this? Can we have them there? He seems to make it, he wants to present it as though if you just merely put an oil tanker in off the north coast, it will just like spontaneously combust and oil's going to kill all those killer whales. You're going to see seals and killer whales and golden eagles and bald eagles covered in tar. And that's just the end of the world, everybody. It's just, again, a massive oversimplification from David Eby, who I know politics is by its nature a very dishonest profession, but he takes it to extremes, you know, almost to the point where I can't stand it.
No pathways, no pipeline. This one makes no sense. That's what it should be. No pathways, no pipeline, no sense. Makes no sense. And this thing is supposed to capture 16 million tons of carbon dioxide, right? This is a joint kind of venture that was proposed, and we had on I'm trying to get her name now because it's a hyphenated name again, Martha Hall Finley, last week. One of the architects of Pathways, and she said, when the world was all in, when the Americans were in, when the whole world was pushing the Paris Accord and everybody was trying to do this, except India and China, when the Americans were doing, let's just say the Americans were in on it, it made sense because everybody was going to do it. But now that the world has walked away from it, why does Canada want to punish its energy sector and drive away investment? Because this is a $16.5 billion investment. That's the estimate today, right? And what investment in Canada has come under budget and under time? That's a $16.5 billion investment by 2030. All right, let's check the TMX. Did that come in under budget on time? Has anything in Canada come in under budget and on time? I wonder what that Spaceballs thing is going to look like in a few years from now.
But Hodgson is trying to appease people by saying, don't worry, we'll get to 2030 or something like that. You'll spend a certain, I can't remember how much it is, but you'll spend a few billion or something. And then technological advancements will be so effective, they'll have such a profound effect on this that it'll be loads cheaper and that'll be fine. That's just pie in the sky bollocks given to you by the federal government, by the energy minister, widely considered to be like the number 2 in Carney's government. You're supposed to swallow that crap. What is he talking about, man? Oh, it's like, don't worry. This is vaporware, isn't it? This is what
NFT.
This is what CEOs in America get accused
or whatever the things were that they were selling those NFTs. Jack Dorsey's first tweet for $6 million.
Non-fungible tokens. Indeed.
This is Oil Sands Alliance, right? It's a 650 kilometer pipeline network that's going to bring CO2 from the Fort Mac area to the South Storage Hub in Cold Lake, which the First Nations group there. So we don't want this. We don't want it there. It's just crazy. It is like one of the biggest taxation schemes ever. It's just a big scheme. 16.5 billion, the estimate today, right? And they said they need a carbon price of 130 to 150 to kind of make it viable. The actual market price of the carbon price that's been operating in Canada, $17. $17. So 10x that to get to the viable carbon price that, again, nobody else in the world is going to do. And Ian and I have proposed a solution. The solution is this. Everybody wins in this solution. It's a win-win solution. No industrial carbon tax. Pierre, are you listening? And your people listening? Here's the pitch. This is the pitch. No industrial carbon tax. No carbon capture from Canadians to pay. No company pays it. We get the oil to the ports, the northern port there, West Coast. Whatever the trading dollar price of oil is, the US dollars, the country that's buying it, we add carbon capture to it because they want to pay for it. That's what Mark Carney says. They want that. So we add the premium there. And then you take that premium and you take it back and you give it to Brookfield or whoever you want to give it to, and then they go and invest in carbon capture. That way the people that want carbon capture can actually pay for it. Canadians don't want it. The person that wants to buy the oil with carbon capture on it can pay for it. Alleviating the Canadians from paying for it. The ones that can't put food on their table. How about that? Makes sense, no? Because the world wants it, then show us, prove it.
But also another thing would be no subsidies whatsoever. If this is like
no government
red
funding,
hot
zero
technology,
government funding.
If this is a new industry, then the oil companies are going to be all over it, aren't they? The majors, they're going to be like jumping on this, and no subsidies whatsoever. Actually, in fact, the opposite of subsidies. We should tax the carbon capture industry that Mark Carney says is going to be created because it's such a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Why don't we tax it? Then we can pay for services, and we can put that money into dental care and healthcare, and you can go on brag about how you're helping the people, Mark Carney. Or is it maybe not an industry after all, but it's just some massive taxpayer subsidized scheme? It's basically just a way to funnel cash out of taxpayer.
Because it's the federal taxpayer, the federal government money, which is your money, provincial government money, which is your money, paying for this taxation scheme, and the oil company's profits. And at the same time, when Canadians can't put food on their table, at the same time, we're going to show you some receipts for that too. We always bring the receipts. We always bring you the truth. And here's another one that alarm bells should be going off, dinging in your head. And this one, you can't unhear this one when it starts dinging in your head. This is all for the hotel rooms that are being paid for asylum claimants here in the past year. Listen up.
And does that include providing services like shelters, like hotels and other housing accommodations temporarily for
families?
Yeah.
Yes, for families.
For families.
So for
individuals. And who pays for these hotels?
So it's cost shared between the federal government and the municipality.
And how much does money does Peel receive from the federal government through the through these interim housing assistance program?
So for eligible costs for 25-26, we received 95% of eligible costs for transitional housing in the reception center from the federal government. Peel responsible for 5%.
How much is that in dollar value?
So in dollar value, in 2025, federal contribution was $29.8 million, and then the regional contribution was $2.3 million.
Wow. And so these services are being provided before a confirmation of eligibility from the federal government has been provided. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So that means a fraudulent asylum claimant could potentially receive these services. Is that correct?
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. So according to the government website, it says, quote, historically, asylum claimants made up just 4 to 5% of the sheltered population. By late 2023, they accounted for approximately 71%, nearly 3 out of every 4 individuals in the system. This surge pushed Peel's shelter capacity to over 400%, requiring Peel Region to secure overflow hotel spaces to meet the growing demand, end quote. So is it correct that Peel has had to use overflow hotel spaces because the shelter system was overwhelmed by the sharp increase in asylum claimants?
In 2023, yes, we rectified that. We separated the domestic homeless population from the asylum claimant homeless population. We converted a commercial building to a congregate living for individuals. So it can accommodate up to 590 some individuals in that center. So those two are separated, and we do use hotels
in that facility,
for families.
You talked about how much federal money did you receive to build that facility?
We received $22 million, of which we only spent 20.
Okay. So does local homelessness still exist in the region of Peel?
Absolutely.
That's good.
So,
that's good.
That would make you mad, but I was nearly mad. But then he said that it's federal money, federal government money that pays for it. I was worried. I thought it might have been my money.
Yeah,
I thought it might have been your money, Jim. I was starting to get worried, but it was the federal government, so that's okay, right? I mean, that's not our money, is it?
This rampant runaway immigration stuff has driven up rent prices too. Obviously, that causes problems with rental prices, right? Because there's lack of supply, which drives up rent for you. That doesn't get any subsidy. You don't get any subsidy. And the homeless people that are actually from Canada, you can, what's that word? Suck it. And meanwhile, if you come from somewhere else and have a fake asylum claim, you're better off to actually figure out a way to cross the border, rip up all your documentation, and come back and claim asylum. Like, you're literally better off. Like, it just make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Well, it's just this sense of an obligation to the entire world rather than to Canadians. There is no hierarchy established in the minds of the liberal, especially the internationalist liberal. And that, Mark Carney obviously is one example, but look who he's just appointed as Governor General. Madame Arbor, like someone who's just
Open the door.
clouds. They just care about the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that applies to immigration as well, because they don't see a distinction between a Canadian and a Bangladeshi asylum seeker or something who's walked over the border from the US into Quebec and
What
said,
they don't,
"Oh, I'm gay and they'll kill me if I go back," or something like that. Please give me things.
What they don't see is what's disconnected is the federal money they're using. They believe it's federal money. It's connected to your wallet. That's where the money comes from. It doesn't come from anywhere else. We don't apply to the UN when we give money. Like, nobody's giving Canada money. It comes directly from taxpayers. That's where the money comes from. There's no, like, tree in the backyard. Not that I'm
And
aware.
this is the ridiculous. You know, you look at the ridiculous claims made by believers in modern monetary theory as well, like this idea that you can just print money and it's fine. That's us too. We also suffer because then we just pay for it through inflation. So one way or another, it's coming out of our pocket.
And in Peel, just give Peel another crack at it here. How's crime doing in Peel? Let's listen to this. How's Peel doing?
Be predatory on innocent families, you can't. Here's a case where all the alleged criminals are not even Canadian citizens, but they are acting with impunity in our region. If you think this can be replicated, it's going to have the same result, because we have the best of the best in the Peel Regional Police. And having CBSA here to send a very clear signal that this is not tolerated in Canada, I think is particularly helpful. Be predatory on innocent...
Yeah. Yeah, it was on speed there. Literally. Literally. Like, and then airport safety, we showed you that yesterday, the Toronto Pearson Airport. And can we have the beaver? Because we need the beaver one. We've got a beaver alert. Beaver alert.
Oh, wow. It's been too long.
Been too long. Okay, Gary, take it away. Make sure every Canadian feels very safe and secure in Canada here, because you're in charge of this, right?
Ona. A Pearson ramp worker said, and I quote, "I walk out through the terminal doors, nobody checks you. We joke you could walk out carrying a cruise missile," end quote. That's from a W5 investigation exposing organized crime using travelers' baggage to traffic drugs through Pearson Airport, a scheme that's been happening for a very long time. Given the Transport Minister's silence on this brazen security failure, Canadians want to know, with the FIFA games set to start in weeks and over $1 billion committed to security, if the Liberals won't be taking this seriously now, why would Canadians believe they ever will with our security?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the safety and security of Canadians is our top priority, Mr. Speaker. Canadian law enforcement work closely with airport authorities, airlines, border agencies, and international counterparts to detect criminal activity, protect travelers, and disrupt organized crime networks involved in drug trafficking, Mr. Speaker. At least 6 arrests related to luggage tag swapping have been made by the RCMP. We continue to invest in law enforcement, Mr. Speaker. $1.3 billion for border, 1,000 new CBSA and 1,000 new RCMP.
Okay. Gary, just very nicely, just resign. Just resign. Like, you are an absolute failure.
Well, look, you don't even have to say it. I'll liberate you from that responsibility. You know, a couple of weeks ago, when there was a press conference and not Canadian press, political. She used to work for the Canadian press, but a political journalist asked something about Mark Carney's relationship with the Finnish Prime Minister. It's like, do you text? Have you been texting the Finnish Prime Minister? And then we had Chris Sims on, who was laughing about it. And I gallantly stepped in to defend her because I actually think she's all right. I think she's quite a good journalist. But anyway, and she also interviewed me about Bill C-18. So, respect. But anyway, she's got a video out now. She works for Politico. She's on the hill, as they say. So she's constantly talking to all of the ministers and MPs and things. She released a video saying that there's a list of ministers who are considered within the Liberal Party to just be totally crap. And you'll never guess who's on it.
Who's on the top?
The people like gentlemen. But yeah, Lena Diab, obviously. Gary Nandasangri, Melanie Jolie's on it. Evan Solomon, he was number 1. And there was one other one. Who was it? I can't. Oh, did I say Sean Fraser? He's on it as well. Anyway, so there you go. Her name's Mickey. I guess her name must be Michaela. So if you want to go and look at her, Mickey Jurich. You want to look at her Twitter or whatever, you can watch that video.
The three there, Jolie, Gary, and Lena, I mean, they got to be like the top pieces of fruit to pull off. And then the rest of them should go as well. I mean, Sean Fraser, we've interviewed in the past. I mean, smart guy. Yeah. I don't think he knows what he's doing, but anyway, smart guy.
Nice chap, I would say. I know a lot of people won't want to hear that, but I thought.
But I mean, Gary's basically just what you call a pretender, an absolute pretender.
Oh, he's a total fraud. He's totally incompetent. I mean, it's absolutely tragic. But there's no point. We can talk about Sean Fraser being probably quite smart, nice guy. Yeah. Melanie Jolie's got a certain kind of charisma as well. I'll even say that about Melanie Jolie. Evan Solomon, quite a good talker, even though he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he can speak a lot. And then you get to Gary, and it's just like, what can I say? What can I say? He's completely hopeless. And look, the cynical read on this, I think, is the accurate one. He's there to represent an ethnic power base. Sorry to say, but that's what it is.
This one
he's
here
there to be a visible member of a group, an ethnic voting bloc that the Liberal Party wants to keep on side.
Spend the $300 and subscribe to Blacklocks. I'm going to say this enough times, but she's nice enough to let us use her stuff here. And this one here, finding truth is a voter's job. This is Steve McKinnon. Here, affordability has never been so good in the last decade. And McKinnon, here. They know it's a lie. And here's there's a bill being put out there to stop lying in Parliament. But McKinnon says, Parliament has no business policing political speech to ensure it's truthful. That's from Steve McKinnon. It's up to the voters, not the House of Commons, to determine the truthfulness of claims by public officials. There you go. There's your get out of jail free card. Just say whatever you want. Lie directly to the Canadian public that you pay his wages, and it's okay because it's to retain power. So he's got a, what you call that, get out of jail free card, whitewashed or whatever. So it's his privilege to lie to you. It's his privilege to lie to you. Right here, parliamentary privilege includes freedom of speech. Can you do that? Why do they want to police the internet?
No, we don't have that privilege.
Parliamentary privilege, again, elitist, parliamentary privilege for the elites includes freedom of speech, which allows parliamentarians to freely voice concerns and opinions without fear of criminal or civil prosecution. The privilege is
Can we have some of that, Steve? Can you share? Can you share a little bit of that glorious bounty?
If this doesn't make you so bloody angry, like just absolutely, John Carpe, you're listening, because this has got to just like, if you're going to court, just put this on the table. How do the servants of the people get privilege over the people? Explain that. Are the people number one, or is the servants of the people number one? Because he's asking for privilege that is fundamental to lie to you. And they are now they're trying to push through Bill C-22, where they can access your phone and everything, and they want you to, the tech firms to keep their information for a year. Well, they delete theirs after 15 days. Make it make sense, man. Make it make sense.
I would say, just as historical and also present day context, that this is a feature of the English political system. So you get this, obviously, in England. You get this in the United States with parliamentary privilege. So in Britain, which has quite strict defamation laws, so you find yourself sued if you say certain things about people. You know, you say something that you think is obvious, but you actually are legally liable for defamation. So you get screwed over. But in England, sometimes there'll be a super injunction or an injunction of some kind, which is where a rich person basically spends a lot of money on an expensive lawyer to make sure that the press can't report on something that they're accused of or have done, something embarrassing. So sometimes an MP will stand up in Parliament and just say, so Bob Jones, you know, as we all know, he's a nonce. So they have that privilege and they can do that. And then it's out into the wild and into the public. And yeah, I said that also applies in the American system. But there's something else, isn't there, that we have to mention, a feature of the American system, which is, I would argue, the main reason that America can be called a democracy is because it has the First Amendment.
That gives you the right. That gives you the right.
The same right, yeah. I mean, so much protection that it's basically the same.
It gives you the right. In Canada, we don't have that right. So in here, he's saying he wants that right, but you don't deserve that right. These are the people.
First Amendment for me, but not for thee.
This must be put to an end. If he and I ever get in there, that'll be the first thing. And it'll be just, everybody gets freedom of speech except you, Steve.
Put it in the law. The entire population except Steve McKinnon, who lives at 25 likely put his name.
Steve-O. The Conservatives put a motion together for property rights. The Commons yesterday voted it down, 199 to 139, to reject that Conservative motion to sustain property rights after a judge granted title to those Richmond private lots there. We've done so much on that. I won't go into it much, but here's a chance for the government of Canada to stand up for fee simple property rights. Decided not to. But even though,
and what did they do? What was their counter argument? Oh, you're whipping up hatred. You're whipping up, basically.
Yeah.
In effect, they're saying you're a racist.
Misinformation, disinformation,
Good
blah blah
argument.
blah 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 blah. And then a First Nations group condemns denialism and white supremacy 5 years after disputed claim that 215 bodies found in Kamloops. The controversial matter of the ground-penetrating radar scan at Kamloops Indian Residential School announced on May 27, 2021, continues to divide Canadians 5 years later. The First Nation group claimed 215 dead children had been found buried in the ground, but no evidence confirming that claim was ever presented. The Union of BC, British Columbian Indian Chiefs, meanwhile, remains unapologetic about the unproved claims, accusing those requesting evidence of the residential school denialism. It added that attempts to cast doubt or erase the well-documented atrocities of residential schools is a little more than racism, white supremacy, and colonial violence. I mean, Blacklock's tried to get information on that as well. They blocked her, then she went to court for it, got some information which was just redacted. I think it was a page that was just completely blacked out. So here's your information. Here's some black ink for you.
It's surreal, isn't it? There's been a couple articles. Canadian Press put out a dreadful article. I think it was Canadian Press, or maybe it was the Globe and Mail. Actually, no, it was the Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail put out a shocking article, which was basically what this Union of BC Indian Chiefs said, which is like any expression of doubt about this the Kamloops radar scan. If you doubt at all that was 215 children that they found, then you're a denialist, which is just an attempt to try and
silence you.
It's taking that word denialism, denialist, which comes from Holocaust denial. Obviously, they're trying to equate you to somebody who denies that Jews were intentionally slaughtered by the Nazis and the Nazis' allies in the 1940s. Some would say, with a lot of justification, the greatest crime in the history of the human species. They try and equate expressing a wee bit of doubt about a ground-penetrating radar scan and huge claims surrounding that scan with the Holocaust. It's just... It's not serious. It's not serious. This conversation that's had in Canada, in the media, in the intelligentsia, which doesn't even really exist in Canada, but Canada's version of the intelligentsia, the conversation is not even close to being serious. It's completely farcical. It's a completely stupid conversation. And it almost feels like, why even open your mouth about it? It's every single party involved in this is fundamentally unserious, except for a few people like Jonathan Kay, who we interviewed, who have the intellectual honesty and rigor to take it seriously and actually look into it. And what does he get? What's his reward? He's referred to as a white supremacist or whatever the hell it is. I mean, it's just unserious.
We're not going to go into this one too much because tomorrow at 10:30 we have Macklin McCall on the show. Macklin McCall, MLA for West Kelowna Peachland for the BC Conservative Party here, and also a former RCMP member. He's going to talk about this thing. If you put that Andrew Lawton tweet there, CBC, an organization with CBC funding there, did the mockeries, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow, so we won't go into it today too much, but Macklin McCall will be on tomorrow to talk about that. But this money that they're trying to get more money out of the streamers here, the CRTC just tripled the online streaming tax. And here's some questions in question period. Rachel Thomas says that only Parliament can introduce a new tax. And here's the defense of this. Of course, defending it always is Liberals. So who doesn't need a new tax, right?
last week, the CRTC announced that it will be tripling the online streaming tax from 5% to 15%. And this tax will now drive up the cost that consumers pay for things like Netflix or Disney+. And just this weekend, Spotify announced that already it will take effect coming in July. They will be increasing their prices. For over 800 years, it has been parliamentary tradition that only Parliament imposes a tax. Only Parliament. Regulators like the CRTC do not have the authority to do that. So will this government speak to the CRTC and make it reverse course?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite. Let me be very clear. This is not a new tax. This is an imaginary tax, once again brought up in the House. Our government is relentlessly focused on the cost of living for Canadians. That's why we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. This decision from the CRTC only ensures that existing rules are applied in a way that fosters fair competition. This is about protecting Canada's distinct culture and identity and ensuring the vitality of our cultural sector. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. What is he on? What is he literally on? But Steve McKinnon, he says he can do anything. It's not a tax. And all that shows up on your bill is a tax. It's not a tax, though. And it's just about protecting Canada's culture and identity by shoving crap down your throat that you don't want to watch, by making you keep the CBC alive that nobody wants to watch. Like, I mean, to keep dead relics around, keep the dead fish, the rotting corpses of dead media around to lie to you. That's what it's for? That's what it's for.
But like I said, I think it was yesterday, the Liberal Party operates like the Vatican. It operates, it issues edicts. The papal encyclical is issued, and that encyclical declares that this is not a tax. Just like the carbon tax used to be a tax.
Said it wasn't a tax. What she said, it was not a tax.
It's a levy.
It's a levy. But if you look in the dictionary what a levy is, it says it's a tax.
No, it's not a tax. It's a levy. It's like, okay.
If you look up levy, tax. If you look up tax, levy. So you just
literally. Like, if it's a small dictionary that doesn't have much space, that is literally the word levy would literally just be a tax. That's all they would say if they didn't have the space to actually go into more detail. I mean, absurd, isn't it? But anyway, the papacy, the Vatican has said. The Vatican, in other words, the Liberal Party, has said this is not a tax. Therefore, I don't know. I mean, the encyclical has been sent to the CBC, the rest of the sort of establishment. They're going to go with that, aren't they? Of course they are, because the Pope said so, and the Pope is infallible.
Who gets the money? Who gets the money? The CBC is just like, and thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll fix that for you. What?
That's not a tax. That's CBC sausage rolls. That's the sausage rolls. We haven't had the sausage rolls on for a while either. Look at that. There you go. More sausage.
Valiant Goat just said that that MP sounds like a tax denialist.
I got a different word for him, but hey, he's on something. You know, they're coming for social media because now they're getting all the experts to come out, and social media damaging children is as damaging to children as smoking. That's according to the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges in the UK. I think the parents should decide what the kids do and don't do. Senior doctor said there can be few issues which have united clinicians so resoundingly in recent years the impact of unfettered exposure to tech and devices currently having on children and young people's health. It comes as the UK, alongside other countries around the world, is considering banning social media for under 16. It's not going to work. It's absolutely not going to work. It's not going to work. So in this AI world,
they're trying to institute, like to use social media, you're going to need to have your ID, like your passport or something. Register that with Meta or whoever it is, and then they'll say, "Oh, but this is to protect the kids." I mean, that's the criticism, but I would say the evidence is also profound and very, very deep.
Resides
and serious.
With parents. It resides with parents.
Children suffer because of this. So
prohibition worked, right? Prohibition. They banned alcohol in the United States. Worked bang up, right?
No, it's upstream of the law, isn't it? It's sort of, it's pre-legal. It's based on your moral system. You know, whether or not you'll commit crimes, or, you know, they try to prohibit prostitution and things like that as well. The best way to stop that from happening is to raise your kids right. You know, it's like, or to stop crime occurring, and you stop people getting guns and going shooting kids and things like that. Yeah, the best way to stop that from happening is to raise your kids.
You know what the best way to have
recognize that that's evil.
Do you know where they, you know, like the lowest crime rates in that in very prosperous economies, very prosperous economies. That's what you can do. Here you go. No jobs count on jobs plan. How many programs have we done? How many stories have we done on the federal government, on the ministries, where they want zero accountability and don't have any metrics to count this? And this is another one. Department of Employment says its Canada's summer job program does not help students hiring through 50% wage subsidies, but it does help, but cannot say how many jobs it creates. What? So this is the Canada Summer Jobs Program, but it doesn't know how many jobs it creates. A first ever analysis called it a good policy tool, but it only costs $250 million a year. But they have no idea how many jobs it creates.
I mean, why not? Why not fail to track that? Seems obvious that you wouldn't track that.
$285 million in wage subsidies. I mean, it should be pretty easy to track. Money goes out. Where'd the money go? It's starting to sound like a Minnesota scam or what? And then this here, from the Bank of Canada, let's on youth unemployment as the temporary foreign workers program. No, the one before that. Nope, nope, nope. This one here. Nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope, nope. Play the clip.
This group faces major employment challenges. In 2022, the unemployment rate for 15 to 24-year-olds reached 9%, its lowest level ever recorded. Almost 4 years later, it exceeds 14%, which represents the largest increase in unemployment among workers of all ages. This deterioration is particularly marked among teenagers. Young people are not only overrepresented among the unemployed, but they currently account for nearly a quarter of the long-term unemployed, a proportion that has more than doubled since 2022. In fact, their share in the rise of long-term unemployment exceeds what was seen during the recession of the early 90s and the global financial crisis of 2008 to 2009. Chenille Gaël, data also indicate that it is in this group that the ability to find a job has declined the most sharply. So how can we explain this?
That's good. I don't know what the heck was going on there.
Was that like an Islamic prayer that he started to chant?
No idea what's going on there. But anyway, youth have paid the price. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Conestoga College, with its 86% foreign students, youth unemployment, and there was banging on the door 20% in that community. And then you had the Tim Hortons in them saying nobody wanted to work for them. Now Tim Hortons needs people. Tim Hortons now saying, oh, we're going to hire locals. Tim Hortons. Anybody buying it? Here's Michelle Rempel again on Timmy's.
Tim Hortons is trying to, move away from its reliance on temporary foreign workers by launching a campaign to hire more local workers. I'm wondering if you think it was time and if other restaurants should do the same.
So you're talking about temporary foreign workers. Yes, I'm sorry. Have to take a kick at humor once in a while. Look, I read the articles and the statements that chain made, and they're still asking for temporary foreign workers, right? The Conservative Party's position has been twofold. First of all, we know that there's a youth jobs crisis. We know that there's a lot of Canadians who are out of work. What we've been pushing the government for is better labor mobility strategies, skills training to match and make it easy to facilitate Canadians to move to where the jobs are, right?
That's good.
So we need that.
You notice that, when the first came out, the media came out and said Tim's is going to focus on local Canadians, right? Do you know what I mean? Now it's like she took a kick at them and called them the temporary foreign workers program. But notice now, like if you put up the next headline there, Tim Horton plans to reduce reliance on temporary foreign workers. Reduce reliance, right? Again, that's a nice little massaging of the truth, right? Again, misinformation, disinformation. Reduce reliance. What does that mean? Why not, once the youth unemployment, get youth unemployment below 9% and then allow for temporary foreign workers? Before it goes below 9%, the absolute number should be, do we have Julie? Just with the, just with that.
Show that the industrial carbon price
just with the,
zero.
that's how many we should get in Canada until youth unemployment is at below 9%. That many, Julie. She's another one that needs to be on that list, by the way.
I think, to be honest, the reason that she's not on that list is because nobody even remembers that she's around. She's such an anonymous figure, isn't she?
And it's, like a lot of this is they're feeling that people aren't going. I haven't been to Tim Hortons forever now, and I will not go to Tim Hortons. They disrespect Canada. And that used to be such a proud institution, founded on the name of Tim Horton, the hockey player. Not so much anymore. It's owned by a Brazilian restaurant group that has no respect for Canadian youth and unemployment. Google and Dunkin' Donuts saving Canada, literally. So Google pushing back now as well. And then Google pushing back on Bill C-22. They're just joining the chorus there with Apple and that. So we're not, you can put up the next one. We're not creating a back door for you. The answer is no. No, thank you. Not going to happen. Solid no.
To think that, this is another thing that we're talking about, sort of poking the Americans in the eyes with a very dirty stick. This also is guaranteed to upset the Americans, or at least get their attention, because this is talking about trying to force American companies to make it easy, or easier, they say, to hack their systems and steal data, and trying to dictate terms to these companies about what they should and shouldn't do. So not only is it bad domestically, but that's also bad in terms of our relationship with the United States.
Here's another MP that's on the list, that should be on the list. This is from Blacklocks as well. Unidentified automakers drafting a secret plan to export Canadian-made passenger vehicles to Asia and the Middle East. Rewind the video. It's back to where Ian says, where you're going to ship it everywhere if we're going to stick a stick in the Americans' eyes. And how are we going to ensure that these ships get there? And Jolie's saying that, I'm not saying this because it's something I wish. My point is this is the point I'm getting from other automakers. She wouldn't name the company.
So what is the point of opening your mouth? Again, it's like Tim Hodgson saying some unidentified mysterious technology will be invented in 5 or 10 years that makes this daft carbon capture scheme worthwhile and economical. Oh, really? These people are our masters. This is our government. This is how daft these people are. It's just
this is in Parliament there in question periods. And it says, your testimony, the Canadian automakers have approached the government to say that they believe there's a global market, and that's from MP Chambers. And Jolie, yep, or yes, absolutely. Honda and Toyota have told you, for example, that they believe they can build cars in Canada and export them to the Middle East or Asia. And she's been, we've been approached by companies, I can't say which one because obviously that is business confidential information. She has no idea what she's talking about. No company has come to any committee or Parliament Hill or gone to the media to suggest there's a viable business plan, and that's from Chambers. And she says in her condescending tone, listen, I'm telling you, that's what we're getting information. That's what we're getting, information. And then the last question there, do you believe the Canadian auto sector can survive without access to the U.S. market? Jolie, I think we need to be able to work on many scenarios. They're literally trying to kill this auto sector. Like, it makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. And here's from the IEDM, right? Canada's auto sector is paying the price for governments trying to pick winners before the market was ready. Billions are poured into EV strategy. Let's just add wasted, just as demand slowed, investment projects began collapsing. Instead of relying on subsidies and industrial planning, Canada should focus on improving competitiveness and creating a stable business environment where automakers can invest based on real market demand. Isn't that what capitalism is in that free market economy? You build something people want. You don't subsidize the crap out of something that people don't want. It's weird, no? One works, one doesn't.
Consult our video, watch our interview with Catherine Swift yesterday, a trained economist, by the way. Catherine is.
A laureate winning one, though, too. A Nobel laureate winning economist, by the way, and worked with Mark Carney.
Yeah.
An expert by any definition, right?
Definitely an expert. But watch the section where we talk about economics in Canada, you know, the nature of Canada's economy and oligopolies and things like that. I mean, it's not we don't have a free market really here, do we? But I just have to go back. I have to go back to Melanie Joly, and I have to come out with an analogy. We love an analogy, don't we? But this is the equivalent, right? So she's been chatting to these companies who are beneficiaries of the Canadian taxpayer. They've received money from us, which is directed into their bank accounts by none other than Melanie Joly. So she has almost like a client relationship with these companies, right? And their objective, one of their primary objectives when they're in Canada, is to milk the taxpayer's teat. And, you know, holding that teat, if you forgive that imagery, is Melanie Joly. Right, so then they're putting all kinds of things into her ear, and then she comes and says, in Parliament, in a parliamentary committee, in a very serious setting, she comes and said, "Oh yeah, they're saying they'll do anything. You know, they'll do this. The roads will be paved with gold, etc., etc." That is the equivalent of like a husband, a dopey husband, going off to like a used car salesman and being told a load of shite. It's like, and they're going to give us this awesome insurance, and these tires they said they're basically new, like basically new tires, honey. And it's like coming home trying to sell it to the wife. It's like any half competent wife or husband for that matter in that situation would just be like, yeah, they're selling you bollocks. They're talking shite. It's like, and is any of this written down? Do you have a contract? Like, where's the guarantee? Like what? But instead of it being a dopey husband who's just been had the piss taken out of him by a used car salesman, it's our industry minister. It's one of our overlords. Again, I reiterate, I can't say it enough times. These people are, in the very best case, mediocre. These are not high-grade, high-caliber individuals. And yet, they're in control of our lives. Just think about that for a moment.
I just want you to consult the globe for a second. This is our most expensive prop we have here. Consult the globe there and tell me, is China closer to India or is Canada closer to India? Which one is closer? Just if you had to guess.
If you had to guess as well, which one do you think is more expensive to produce things in?
Now let's take this for example. Guess who produces cars in China and is closing factories in China? All right, that's Honda and Toyota. Right, that's them. Volkswagen, by the way. Volkswagen. GM, Ford. Yeah, they're closing factories there because they can't sell the cars there. Now, for some strange reason, just like carbon capture saves the world in the whole world because if only Canada does it, for some strange reason, Honda and Toyota will make cars in Canada and ship them to India and the Middle East instead of making them in China and shipping them like a few 100 kilometers versus around the world. Make it make sense.
I mean,
or Japan even if Japan, they could make them directly in Japan, like Japan is like there, and they could just go over there. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Or Vietnam, or
Korea,
Laos, or somewhere like that. Indonesia, these up-and-coming countries. Yeah, I mean, Korea, that's a little bit more expensive. But you can make it in all these countries where the annual salary is like $2,500 US.
But again, like
for somebody who's really highly skilled.
Like Steve.
So what are you going to do then? What are you going to do? That you're going to go to Canada.
Matter. Just lie. Doesn't matter. Just make up stuff.
Yeah, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be completely incompetent and gullible. You're going to get told some bollocks by someone and you should know better. You should know it's bollocks. I mean, if you even were told anything, maybe she wasn't. And then you're going to go into a parliamentary committee and say, don't worry, guys, there's a secret conspiracy. There's a secret plan to build cars in Canada and sell them to Asia.
Maybe she thinks it's a bargaining chip for the Americans. Maybe she thinks they're too dumb to realize they don't have one of these things. They don't have one of these things. They don't have a globe.
But they don't have Bloomberg.com. You know, they don't have like Wikipedia. So, like, for God's sake.
Here's another delusion that's being sold to Canada. Here's a delusion. Listen to Mark Carney sell you a delusion here. Listen to this.
To name plainly what's broken, to say as plainly as possible how we intend to replace it, and then do the hard work of building. And people are feeling...
I think I have the wrong clip there. That's okay. It's a clip where he says Canada's median wealth is 23% higher than the Americans. And he goes on to say it's because we take care of each other, because we have free health care they can't access, and all that. I actually have a friend right now that can't get... You got it? Yep.
We are absolutely stronger together. We're better together. We're better people. We're wealthier together. My colleague Corey Hogan points out rightly that median wealth in Canada is 23% higher than the United States. It's not something people would think, but why is that the case? It's because we take care of each other. It's because we focus on things like affordability. Because the people who live here will get childcare. The people who live here will get health care. The people who live here will get high-quality education for their kids. If they're retiring here, they'll get OAS and GIS because Canadians take care of each other.
At the end, I just want to correct something. They will get OAS and GIS. No, they won't. That's a clawback. Old age security and government, that supplement, those things are clawbacks based on your income, right? Not everybody gets that. CPP is one that you get. But a lot of it gets clawed back as well. But he's picking a stat, that's inflated because Canadian home prices are, we showed you how many charts we showed you, the Canadian home prices are severely inflated. That's why that number is higher. If you look at the earnings potential, Canada is about half of what Americans are making now, right, on the average wage. So that stat has inflated real estate. And right now, real estate in Canada, it's in real trouble. We've had Joseph Barbuto on here, I think 3 times. He's coming on Friday. And that's a bubble that's about to pop. It's a massive bubble that's about to pop here. And many Canadians, we're going to show you, like, I think the next story or the story after that, record bankruptcies here going on in Canada. It's a fallacy. It's like saying, as the house is on fire and they're focusing on the doorbell, look how shiny this doorbell is. It's amazing. Look at the doorbell. Meanwhile, the whole house is on fire. It's picking stats. I can do this all day long as an accountant. You can just pick stats and play games, right? And again, it's just statistical nonsense. And talking about free healthcare, how many people in the thread here know somebody that's waiting how long for tests? We've covered this on this program many times. I've done interviews with a young lady that was waiting to get a liver transplant. Finally got one, like after, I think, a year of waiting, right? I have another friend right now making arrangements to go to Mexico because she can't get access to what she needs here in Canada. She can get on the phone literally with a doctor in like a day, making an appointment to get on with a free consultation in Mexico, for God's sakes. And I have another friend that went there for cancer treatment. He says there's 6 doctors in the room consulting with each other. You can't get that in Canada. Like, we're living in a delusion. They talk about free healthcare. They flooded the country with immigration. So there's like you're waiting in waiting rooms. There's people literally dying. We do the stories. They're on our site. Literally dying in waiting rooms. 13, 14-hour waits in waiting rooms, in ER rooms. And there you go. Canadians' filings for insolvency hit highs not seen since the Great Recession. Insolvency volumes jumped almost to 20% in the first quarter of 2026 from the year before to the highest since 2009. Homeowner insolvency volumes up more than 11%. The number of Canadians without a mortgage filing for insolvency was still higher. Severe financial strain is showing up in Canadians' higher-priced housing markets. Mortgage delinquency in Ontario soared 52% in the quarter and 36% in British Columbia. They stand there and tell you, and they're protected according to Steve McKinnon. They can tell you whatever they want. The mass delusion. But again, if you just scratch, just a little scratch below the surface, and you can see the real truth. And until we own up to the truth, we're here. We're stuck in this mass delusion. Well, the elites do extremely well. And I don't know how they go to sleep every night, worried, not worried about the Canadians, worried about putting meat on the table. I mean, I talk to many people, and a lot of people not buying meat. They can't afford to buy meat. And these are people with decent jobs. This is the mass delusion. And they just keep feeding it to you. And the CBC, who's supposed to be the truth seeker, is supposed to be the voice of the people, does none of that. They protect, they are the shield and spear for the Liberal Party of Canada. Here's another one. Canadians face food insecurity as 120% of income, 120, that means they don't have enough to cover it, goes towards food and rent. That means you're borrowing to pay for food and rent.
Or using savings, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. You don't have enough to meet your monthly obligations. And in America bad, right? The perception we showed you in the beginning, the mass delusion, that America is suffering, right? America's, you know how many times has Carney said, Canada's doing better than America? Well, here's from Bloomberg. You know that one you type in, bloomberg.com. Check it out. Check it out. This one here. Listen.
One of the nation's largest grocery stores is slashing prices to give shoppers much needed relief and to stay competitive with other major retailers. Kroger CEO says he sees business like a Formula One race, saying, quote, there's a lead group of cars that are doing a very good job. Our objective is to get out of the midfield and start lapping faster, make up the gap on the first group cars, and then ideally pass them.
They're going to slash food prices. You know why they get better, cheaper food in the United States? Competition. Not
same in the UK.
Not government-run grocery stores, Emily. Avi Lewis, you fools. As you lead more people down your delusional path of nonsense. Anyway. Canadian military. The Republic of Korea's Navy KSS-3 sub was in Esquimalt. Have you ever been to the Esquimalt base? I got a tour there once.
I've never been.
They've had the South Korean sub in there as they pitch Canada on 12 subs. Canada has 4 subs, right? 4. 1 is operational. And we bought them in the 80s, again, in the United Kingdom garage sale. 2 of them lit on fire as we were sailing them home. I remember this story so well. And we tried to get our money back, and the Brits said, not a chance. Those are yours. You were dumb enough to buy them. You're dumb enough to keep them. So that's what we have for the world's largest unprotected coastline. We have 1 diesel sub from the 1980s. That's what we have. The middle power of Canada has 1 operational submarine.
They've dropped an absolute fortune, it seems, on ads, haven't they? The Koreans. It seems like every ad I hear is that Peter Mansbridge one talking about at Hanwha, we blah, 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 blah. Buy your subs.
So we have the longest coastline of 244,000 kilometers. That's what we have, and we have 1 sub. I listened to, they did the interviews on Bloomberg. I listened to Bloomberg in the morning. I work out to Bloomberg. Martha Hall Finley, if you're listening, she loves that too. She said she nerded out there. So they interviewed a young sailor there. You know what he said? He's probably going to get in trouble because I didn't see it get played anywhere else. It was like, they said, what'd you think of that new sub? He said, it's like getting a new Tesla when you've been driving a 1999 Hyundai. Oh, man. That's going to be $25 billion for these 14. They're still buying diesel subs because we're not part of AUKUS, which is nuclear subs. You'd think that the world's largest coastline, the nation, the middle powers like France and the United Kingdom and Australia have nuclear subs, but Canada, being a middle power, has one sub. Can you imagine that if somebody's in trouble? Can you send that 1980s sub over museum piece? I mean, the United Kingdom must still be laughing at that. I mean, maybe they're trying to buy the Harriers from them. Anyway. Comedy Central. Doug Ford. Dougie. Remember when he wouldn't tell us what happened? No. I agree with that.
The right wing or left wing today? I'm excited. I'm excited to find out.
In the province section there, you got it? We need that Jeopardy music. You got it? There you go. Let's play the clip here. Doug, remember he wouldn't tell us about how much, like Ontario's going to be on the hook for that jet. Remember he said, I'm going to get you that information. I'm going to get you that information. And then he stalled. He finally got it out here. Let's listen to this as Doug has to come clean.
Richard Southern, 680 News Radio. The opposition is calling for either the PC party or for you personally to pay the almost $200,000 in additional costs for that Challenger private jet. Will you, sir?
Yeah, you've been itching to say this to me. For 2 weeks you've been holding off. But listen, something, no one's more ticked off about the $200,000. And, I pride myself on saving taxpayers $12 billion every single year. That's what we're going to focus on, and move forward. But, I'm going to focus on continuing to save taxpayers money. And it ticks me off, Richard, more than it ticks you off. I can assure you that.
That's good. That's good. Like, you notice how they always use the names. Carney does it. Dougie does it. They're just like Richard.
But also trying to make it like there's a personal cost to him for asking that question, where it's personalized and it's like you can tell he's trying to show that he's angry with him. He's disappointed in him.
I know if I was there, my retort would be, listen, Doug, you said Ontarians wouldn't pay it, Doug.
And you're still refusing to say any different, even though he was asked a pretty clear question.
And then we're going to skip that next one, but we're going to go to, seriously, Olivia Chow is going to rerun for mayor. The elections, the municipal elections come in October 19th. Olivia Chow, is that what you want, Toronto? The dancer, the Canadian dancer? Anyway, just like...
I mean, I don't know. It's,
Canada's largest...
She won once.
She's leading in the polls. What do the polls know, though? And I don't know how much truth there is to this, but it sounds like that they're going to nullify all the auto pen signings, approximately 92% of them, that Joe Biden signed without authorization. Not Joe Biden. The auto pen signed without Joe Biden's direct authorization. That would be a lot. A lot of them.
Be pretty embarrassing, wouldn't it, if that happens?
I wonder where those pardons, how they were signed, because that night before, remember when Donald Trump won, that auto pen went nuts with pardons. They doled them out like it was candy.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be interested to see who Trump pardons as well. It's like a tradition, isn't it?
Well, it'd be interesting to see how many people are booking overseas flights right now. if they're wondering if their pardons hold up. Here's some justice for you. And I know a lot of people are looking for justice on this. And this one is horrifying. And we've shown you the clips at this beginning of this FedEx driver.
The court that
this
you,
young girl.
Tanner Lynn Horner's been adjudged.
This is his sentencing. Listen to this.
The court that you, Tanner Lynn Horner's been adjudged to be guilty of the offense of capital murder as found by the jury. Jury having answered the special issues making it mandatory that your punishment be death, it is therefore the order of this court that your punishment be death. Before the hour of sunrise on a date to be determined by this court, Upon a mandate of affirmance issued by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals at the State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas, you will be caused to die in accordance with the rules and regulations established by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice until you, said Tanner Horner, are dead. Said execution procedure shall be determined and supervised by the Director of the Texas Department of...
Good. That 7-year-old girl was taken by this person.
Unfathomable. It doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, it's literally the only explanation that could come close to satisfying anyone is that it's just evil. That is evil manifest. That's what it looks like.
Here's democracy. Here's the delusion again. If you believe Canada, Ian questions this all the time. Is Canada a democracy? It's a question we have on this show all the time. And you tell me right now, as you watch Mark Carney walking up the hallowed halls of Parliament there.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Morning. When in Beijing, you signed an MOU between RCMP and Chinese police. Why won't you disclose it?
On Bill C-22, any concern about the criticism?
That's good. Who's right shoulder to shoulder with our friend there? None other than Audra. The one that screamed, next question, next question, next question. And apparently, no question. So this young lady there, the Topshop employee, I won't answer our emails, give us an interview, has decided that probably as they're walking up the hills, up the stairs there, don't take any questions. Because in a democracy, would Trump walk by like that? Not a chance. Not a chance.
But also, would he have walked by like that if the question had been, how about those Blue Jays?
Yeah.
Or how about the Ottawa Charge? Got a few words for the Charge. He's dodging a question that he doesn't like because it's embarrassing and he doesn't really have a satisfactory answer. And the Chinese, it's about China, and the Chinese are watching and he's too scared to comment. So it makes it even worse when you think that it was specifically that question that he wanted to dodge.
Is Canada a democracy? Is that enough proof for you there? That young lady there decides who gets to ask a question, and if the question's not good enough. Like, it's just like Ian said the other day, like it's like back to the noble days where the knight rides into the village and you dare to ask for a grain of wheat or something as they trample over top of you.
It's just such an ugly look, but then, you know, even uglier, and this is what I sort of alluded to earlier, even uglier is that at least a plurality of adults, of voters in this country seem satisfied, beyond satisfied with this. Now, you know, now what? That's one thing. But another thing is the people approving of it. And you're just sat there like, okay, guys, is this what we're doing then?
Well, that's what we're doing here. We're hoping to wake up enough people to push back because obviously they're still suckling at the teat of the CBC and CTV and just drinking in the nonsense and allowing themselves to be whipped up into a fury of anti-American rhetoric, even though we go to sleep every night under their protection because we have one submarine. Realistically, we have the American fleet protecting Canada. The American fleet, nuclear subs, nuclear ships protecting Canada. It's not, because if it was us alone, we would be ripe for the taking for almost anybody. Like ripe for the taking for almost anybody. Like, I mean, any bloody Latvia we gave $100 million probably could come over and take us. Like, why did we give Latvia $100 million? Explain that to me like I'm an idiot. Here's one thing I want to make clear is that one thing that Stephen Harper gave Canadians is the TFSA. And that's probably one of the most powerful tools because it's a tax-free savings account. Maximize that to your fullest. Use Wealthsimple. You can go on the reallybigshow.ca and we got a link there. You get $25 if you open up a Wealthsimple account with that link. But listen to this, how Peter Thiel, a former investor in one of Elon Musk's first investors in PayPal here, how he turned $1,700 in an IRA in 1999 to $5 billion, all tax-free. That's what happens if you put it in your TFSA. It's the same thing the IRA is. Listen to this. Listen to this little clip here.
ProPublica article, a new one, published this morning, highlighting how tech mogul Peter Thiel turned a Roth IRA account into a $5 billion tax-free piggy bank. Robert Frank joins us now with more. I mean, well, let's talk about it, Robert. What a brilliant move right at the outset to see that this could be done and how it paid off. It's really an outlier, but there's quite a few of these guys that got a couple of $100 million, not $5 billion, but they've grown these things to a couple of $100 million.
Yeah, I mean, Warren Buffett, Bob Mercer, both of them have tens of millions in these accounts.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We get the idea. So if you have a TFSA, if you are born in Canada here, or not, you don't have to be born and be a Canadian citizen, you can open up a TFSA and you got $7,000. I think that's the TFSA contribution limit every year right now. And it started in 2009. So if you were eligible as an 18-year-old at that time, it's about $100,000 room. Maximize your TFSA. It is tax-free savings account. Maximize it. Look at that. He turned, can you believe that? He turned, I mean, the guy was a pretty smart investor, Peter Thiel, anyway. And he's attached himself to Elon Musk throughout, through Tesla, through SpaceX, through everything. I mean, he's basically, he's been a parasite, or what you call a suckerfish on a shark. And that's one of the things to learn how to do, is become a suckerfish on a shark. And Elon Musk is probably one of the most consequential people on this planet. And I mean, he's got the Midas touch, and SpaceX about to go IPO here. And that thing is just going to go literally, like he said on the honeymooners, to the moon, Alice, to the moon. There's your dry humor.
With Thiel here and his Roth IRA, is it so it's the case that the money grew?
Yeah,
it's not like
inside,
and then and they don't tax the growth within that. Yeah.
Bingo.
So he was just exceedingly shrewd with his investments then, I guess.
A lot of it was investments, penny stocks at the time of PayPal, when PayPal was when Elon Musk and his brother, I can't remember his brother's name right off the top of my head now, the cowboy hat wearing Musk. They were sharing one computer in a one-room apartment there, and they would go to sleep, and the next guy would go on, and they created, I think they created Zip2 first. That was their phone book, their phone book. They made Zip2, made some money off Zip2, put that money into PayPal, sold PayPal, and I think it was like maybe, can't remember how many millions, 10 or $100 million, and then put all of that evenly between SpaceX and Tesla. And he put everything he had at that time, basically broke on both, and he was borrowing money to pay his rent, sleeping on friends' couches, because he put every dime he had into both of those. Cost him his marriage, his first one anyway, and then he was sleeping under the desk at work there. And SpaceX was one failed launch from Dunzo. Like, I mean, they had so many failed launches, and he said we only had enough money left for one more. And now you're witnessing a $2 trillion IPO here, I think, in the next couple of weeks here, from a company hanging by the thread. That is what Ian and I talked about at the beginning of the show. The difference between the mass delusions of Mark Carney's Davos speech there and the people actually getting stuff done. You look at SpaceX, and you look at what Canada's doing with Spaceballs in Nova Scotia. And that is like almost like a really good analogy for what's actually going on. It is performative nonsense in Canada, performative nonsense, and the real work is being done in the United States.
SpaceX versus Spaceballs. No competition, is there?
And we're a little long in the tooth today, but we don't have an extra show, so we're going to go through this. And Elon Musk is going to explain, like, Optimus, which could likely be, and he says could likely be the biggest invention on this planet in increasing GDP. Listen up.
Real brain. It's like the Wizard of Oz, Tin Man. Well, was that a heart or a brain? One of the two. So, in order for robots to be useful, they have to be intelligent. They have to be able to do useful things just by asking, and you have to be able to make a large number of them at an affordable price. this is what we can do. We have the only company with all the ingredients for making intelligent humanoid robots at scale is Tesla. This is a super big deal. Like my prediction is that on this front is that Optimus will be the biggest product of all time by far. Nothing will even be close. I think it'll be 10 times bigger than the next biggest product ever made. Like that level.
Take that for what it's worth.
He's confident.
He's the most consequential person on this planet. We interviewed Ian Black just recently, and he agrees with us. There you go. There's 3 of us. Ferrari rolled out its first EV. It's like Melanie Jolie had her paw in there. Ferrari, this is a Ferrari. $640,000 US. $640,000 US. Can we play that clip here? Full electric.
Reacting with disappointment after the Italian manufacturer unveiled its first fully electric car. The 5-seat model is priced at a mere $640,000 US and marks a sharp break from the sport cars maker's fuel-burning heritage. Joining us is Danny Lee.
That's good.
Danny, tell us.
That's good enough. That is. I think I watched this Marcus, I think, on YouTube, and he said it's like BYD ate a Ferrari or something. Like, it's just this ugly monstrosity. $640,000.
And it was designed by Johnny Ive, or in part by Johnny Ive at Apple, who was like a design genius. But I guess
$640,000. Ready? And then here's the Model 3 performance. $54,000. $54,000. Specs almost the same as far as performance goes, almost identical. This is the Model 3 performance, by the way. In Canada, that's worth about $85,000 or something like that. Almost identical performance specs. Now go back to the blue one there. So you can buy 10 or 11 of the red car, 10 or 11 of them, for that one thing right there. Make it make sense.
I mean, they just can't figure it out, can they? Jaguar did. I mean, Jaguar was surely worse, wasn't it?
Jaguar stuck the sword there, and they did Harry Carey, right? They're just like, this is how we destroy a brand. Oh, they could have phoned Melanie Jolie first and said, hey, how do we destroy this brand?
But the thing is, like, a Ferrari, you buy a Ferrari for very specific reasons, don't you? I mean, and that's why you drop the money.
Well, I was going to play Chamath.
How can you sell that?
We're long in the tooth. I was going to play Chamath pitching the SpaceX thing, but we got some stuff here to show you this day in history as we wrap things up. 1940, on this day in history, on May 26th, the Dunkirk evacuation begins, and that's during World War II. Allied forces started the massive evacuation from Dunkirk, France. Over 338,000 troops were rescued in one of history's greatest military rescues. Anything you want to add there, historian?
Well, it's a very good example of how you turn a defeat into a kind of moral victory just by talking about it in a certain way. And that's what they did at Dunkirk. The British made it into a victory, even though if you actually read about what happened, it was a catastrophic defeat of the British Army, one of the worst defeats in its history. But, we remember it as a victory. That's hilarious, really. I mean, in a sense, it was, because the
victor
those were
shall
the
write.
soldiers Britain had, and it got some of them back. So,
the victors will write history to best reflect. I guess.
And the Germans. I mean, the Germans were. If you read about Dunkirk, they were so silly. Like they could easily have destroyed the BEF, the British army that was there. They could have done it, but they didn't. They were so daft.
1805, Lewis and Clark expedition sights the Rocky Mountains. There you go. Became the first Americans to see the Rockies. And when they probably saw that, they're just like after going through the plains, right? You're just like trucking along the plains, and all of a sudden, just like, whoa, blah, hey, as you come face to face with the Rockies, that's going to be an obstacle. 1969, Apollo 10 returns to Earth. And that's the first dress rehearsal, right? That's before Apollo 11. And the big Star Wars premiere, 1977. May the 4th be with you. May the Force be with you. Luke. What's your best line in Star Wars?
It's got to be, I love you, I know. Where, what's his name? What's he called? Han Solo. Just responds as, I know. Yeah, it's quite a cool scene.
I think mine's Yoda, I think, and I might even mess this up. Do or not do, there's no try.
Yeah, that's a good one. It makes you, it's so good that you forget the ridiculous plastic dummy that is Yoda. It's like not very good, not very sophisticated toy.
And then the first American woman in space, and that's Sally Ride. And then here's one you'll like. 1897, Bram Stoker's Dracula was published. That was quite the movie, or quite the story, Dracula. Eh? Sometimes I think some of our mass delusion there, sometimes you do see the fangs come out. You can see the fangs get exposed in some of those press conferences. And it's National Airplane Paper Day. So there you go. Make yourself a paper airplane. And if you know any redheads, it's their day. It's an International Redhead Day.
Very, very interesting. Definitely the most interesting hair color, I would say.
And if you can put this one full screen, this is the evolution of the Canadian liberal man. Or men. Look at that, eh?
The one on the left is Justin Trudeau. That's probably what he looked like in 1996.
That's right.
It's funny.
They forgot the mask. They forgot to put the mask on the last guy there because he should be wearing a mask. And then this one from America. Stephen Colbert is done. And I guess one of the pillars of democracy, I guess, are done as well. Now that's comedy. If those guys are propping up democracy, Jesus. Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, those are the people of democracy in Canada or in the United States. Wow. Wow. That's our show.
Just to go back briefly and end it on a nice happy note. Just to go back to the Lewis and Clark thing. One of the coolest, one of my favorite experiences ever is approaching the Sierra Nevada mountains from the desert. So where you go, it's literally, it looks like, in Game of Thrones, it looks like the wall. It's like this straight line mountain range, and it's like desert, mountain. Then you get to the other side, and it's like Yosemite, basically, like beautiful, pristine nature. And then when you get up there and you see down, you start to go through like the redwoods or the sequoias and the forests, and then you're in the sort of Valley of California. It's some of the most amazing geography on the planet, and it's also like the history of it as well. And I know Lewis and Clark didn't go that way, by the way. I'm not suggesting that they did, but that just reminded me when you talk about the first sight of the Rockies. They went the northern route, but if you do it from the southern route, very, very cool. I very, very highly, strongly recommend that.
Faithfully Blind says she loves what we do, and we appreciate you as well. If you could help us spread the word of truth, that would be much appreciated. If you could just do that, share this far and wide, bring friends, have really big show watch parties. Put us on the weekend. Actually, just say, you got to watch these two guys. The guys with the hair.
Yeah, somebody was called me Gordon Gecko earlier. I'll take it.
Somebody, when we were on with Melissa Lanceman, said, look at that, they have 3 similar hairstyles. I'm just like, okay, I'll take that. I'm okay. Anyway, we're back tomorrow. We're here every weekday. 9 a.m. PST. This one's a little long in the tooth for sure, but we kind of let it run. But there was a lot of stuff to talk about. And tomorrow morning, we have Macklin McCall joining us. Just to let you know, Macklin McCall is going to join us on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, do we have anything on Thursday? We just have us Thursday right now. And then on Friday, we have Joseph Barbudo. And I know that we're waiting for a couple confirmations. So, if you know other people, that we should interview, if you want to reach out to them too and help, there's on our website now, thereallybigshow.ca. You can go there and you can send a letter to an MP. You can look up their address and you can send and say, you can come on The Really Big Show. That would be great if you could come on here. And we appreciate each and every one of you. And we try to converse in here. That's part of the community that we're trying to build, that you're important because you matter. We have to actually work for you to make this successful. Not like the CBC where they get to reach into your pocket, take money, and then work against you. Isn't that crazy? It's absolutely crazy. It's backwards. Imagine if they had to actually be the voice of Canada and you had to actually tick off on your tax return, yes, I would like to contribute to this state broadcaster. How much they'd actually get and who would pay. Would even the Liberals pay for them? Would they even pay themselves? Right? Because they're so greedy and self-serving, would they even cough up any money of their own money for it? Oh, I forgot to mention, here's a bonus one for people. And I didn't put it in because it was really atrocious, actually. Chrystia Freeland now is hawking a book. She's now doing a book tour, won't do any interviews. She's now hawking a book, and somebody went at her and was screaming at her about genocide and all kinds of stuff. I think she was on Canada Land or something. She was promoting her book. She's selling a book, How to Destroy Canada in 5 Easy Steps or something. I think that was the book. I'm not sure what the title was. Something like that, though, right? How to Escape Canada with a Huge Bag of Cash and Take it to a Foreign Country. I don't know what the book was called.
I would like that. I'd like to read that guide.
How to Steal and How to Be Protected. Steve McKinnon's thing there, that should make you angry as heck. That he wants the privilege of being able to lie to you. That's a privilege. But you don't deserve the same treatment. Isn't that wild? These are the people that are governing you. These are the people governing you.
Someone's asking me what I think of Tetley tea versus Waitrose tea. I've never had Waitrose tea, I don't think. Is that Waitrose's own brand? I've never had that, so I can't help you there. Tetley, though, not so much, is it?
I'm going to say this right now, too. We're not going to do a member show on Friday. Maybe we'll do one tomorrow if we don't have it. If an interview doesn't get booked tomorrow, we'll do a member show tomorrow. So if you want to be a member, you can click the join button and you can become a member here on the show as well. And it supports independent media as well. And thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST. We'll be here as defenders of the truth. Thank you for watching Now Media and The Really Big Show.